GA, they improved now to 26-4 at home. And you look at those 4 losses, that's the least in the NBA. 26 wins at home, the most in the NBA. Denver is going to be a tough place to play in the playoffs. When we look at 1 and 2, they're now just a game behind the Warriors. How big of a deal would it be if they get that home court advantage throughout the playoffs?
It matters to them. It doesn't matter to the team in front of them. Because the thing about home court, if I'm an opposing team, I don't have to win 4 times on your court. Generally, I got to win 1. And if we're even, maybe I got to win 2 if you can win 1 in my place. So, that's not as – it's more important for Denver from a confidence standpoint, from validation, because, again, they've got a lot of guys that have never been – they've never played with expectation, even to this point. They're not playing with expectation. When you get in the postseason as a 1 or a 2 seed, now you have expectations, and that's when we'll find out if they're ready or if they're just on the verge of becoming an elite contender. But they're an impressive team to watch. To your point, 30 assists tonight, the ball movement, the fact that they can create so many matchup issues because of Jokic. It's not just his numbers. It's the fact that he can bring the ball up. You run pick and rolls with him, inverted. So and they run their offense through him, and it's hard to pressure that position. Most teams aren't built because you can't go small against him, Derek, because if you do, he will go, like you see here, he will go down low and he will punish you. This is the area where I think he's improved so much from a season ago. He was a reluctant shooter-scorer last year, far more aggressive this year, and that's one of the reasons why collectively this group has elevated.
When you look at Isaiah Thomas, here's a guy that, again, this is just his 3rd game back, played 24 minutes, so we see the minutes increase for him because it was 16 games last time out. You mentioned his conditioning and trying to get back on the court, and it'll be a work in progress, but what should their expectations be from him as he's working to get back into better game shape?
Well, I think the expectations should be very limited, which I think that's what has allowed them to take the time. Just allow him to get healthy. The fact that he could play 24 minutes, the 2nd game back after being out as long as he's been, that's a great sign. But I don't think the expectation should be high. You have an MVP caliber guy, Jokic, in the middle. Great young talent in Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Millsap, steady veteran. Plumlee plays a great role. Malik Beasley, Monty Morris have all gotten better. Will Barton is still a guy that's a tough cover. Isaiah Thomas is just icing on top of an already nicely built cake. So don't try to come back and do too much. Don't expect too much, and just take what comes night in and night out.
But, G.A., to your point of experience in the postseason, that's one thing that Isaiah Thomas does have with his time with the Celtics.
He has it, but he doesn't have it in this role. And he doesn't have the trust of the coaching staff and team. And by that I mean it's not about him as a player. It's about all that they've accomplished has been without him. And so it's going to be tough for him. There'll be a scenario in the postseason where he'll have a game where he gets going and they'll ride him. But for the most part, they're going to go, and they kind of have to do this because these are all young players. So you don't want to do anything that might fracture their confidence or their belief in the coaching staff in terms of supporting them. So, yeah, it's nice to have him, and I think he's been a good leader for them. When he was injured, he was in the meetings, he was engaged, he was constructively critical when he needed to be, and the guys trust that element of it. But on the floor, these guys have all grown without him. This is a team came in, doubts whether or not they'd make the postseason, and right now they're a game out of the 1 seed in the West. I mean, that's equally, if not even more impressive of what we've seen from Milwaukee in the East, because of how deep that Western Conference is. So, I think they're going to – that rotation that they have, I think they're happy with. Those young guys, you talked about guys like Morris, they've earned the opportunity. And the way you get to a championship caliber level, we saw with Golden State. The year Golden State won it, no one thought Golden State was going to be the world champs that season going into it. But they stayed with that crew, and that crew grew. And I think you're going to see a similar dynamic with this Denver team. While he is basically, I think Derek hit on it, he's icing on the cake. He's not the cake. That core group they have is their cake, and if he can help them a game here or there, that's going to be great. But they're not going to go out of their way to try to incorporate him when they've accomplished all this over the course of this season.